Duke Elegy's carriage crept slowly through the depths of the forest. Even the horse at the helm had not seen it before. The carriage was led by what had once been a bandit and now served as a mindless courier, delivering its masters and their weapons from secret location to secret location. The wind whistled in the cavernous sockets where his eyes once were, gouged out in the particularly gruesome battle that claimed his life. Duke Elegy remembered that one. The first time he encountered the Dark Queen he now sought out. He watched as those under her spell performed the hideous act, and how she reanimated the bandit, who now had blind faith in her. She had power that Duke Elegy was both disgusted by and ravenous for. And now this man, or the shell of one, led him right back to his murderer, his god. Duke Elegy heard the familiar sound of the vague buzzing that told him he was nearing the entrance to the place the Dark Queen called home. Soon the carriage came to a halt, and he heard the driver grunt. "Have we arrived?" "Out." As Duke Elegy got out of the carriage, he looked around, surprised that the surrounding area did not appear familiar to him. "This is not the spot I was taken to last time. Does the entrance change often?" "Different. Safe." Duke Elegy looked at the ground rather than the man to whom he spoke. He never quite got used to the undead. The man's jaw hung open, swinging back and forth whether he was speaking or not, forever partially frozen in the scream he had let out while he was being dismembered. The driver lifted his arm and pointed a shaky finger straight ahead. Duke Elegy followed his gaze in the direction he was pointing, and a pillar began to rise from the ground. The driver began chanting inaudibly, as if summoning the monument emerging from the dirt. There were ancient symbols etched on the obelisk, which surged with neon colors, almost throbbing with otherworldly energy. Duke Elegy had to shield his eyes from the sight. "Approach." Duke Elegy nodded and walked towards the obelisk apprehensively. He had done this twice before, been led to the magical pillar that delivered him to the mysterious woman who he was sure would soon rule the realm. But it was not something he was sure he would ever get used to. Be delivered to an ever-changing location by an army of zombies to the most powerful woman in the world. He shuddered and sighed. He was not sure he could ever beat her. Thus, he joined her. "Touch." The Duke lifted his palm to the throbbing surface of the obelisk and moved it slowly towards it. As Duke Elegy's hand touched the pulsating surface of the obelisk, a surge of electric energy coursed through him. Strange symbols illuminated the obelisk, reacting to the contact as if it had been awakened from a deep slumber. The forest around them seemed to bend and warp, an otherworldly whisper filling the air. The surroundings blurred, the forest fading away like a distant memory. Duke Elegy found himself standing in a dark realm, twisted structures looming in the distance, and an ominous castle sprawled against the horizon. Having served its purpose, the obelisk vanished, and Duke Elegy smirked. "Home, sweet home." As he took in the surroundings, a figure cloaked in shadows emerged from the depths of the dark realm. The Dark Queen approached with a sly smile. Her eyes held unsettling wisdom, and cascading locks of raven-black hair framed her face. Her porcelain pale and flawless skin reflected an unnatural luster, like moonlight on the surface of a still pond. The fabric of her gown seemed to writhe and whisper as if alive. As she extended her hand, adorned with jeweled talons that glinted ominously, the air around her seemed to grow colder. A haunting melody accompanied her every step.
Welcome back, Duke Elegy. Did you miss me?
Her voice, a blend of seduction and menace, echoed through the dark landscape. Duke Elegy bowed before her, a mix of reverence and mischief in his eyes. The way you miss your sleep after you've had a nightmare.
Come, Duke Elegy. There are matters to attend to.
As he followed her to an unknown location, nearly floating through the darkness, not sure whether he would fall through the ground itself at any moment, he heard a familiar noise. With the wave of her hand, the Dark Queen summoned a door and swung it open. In the room were Rosa's chambers from Elisaria, set up exactly how they were when she was the queen. She sat in a distorted version of the chair Aldrich had gotten for her, held a horsehair brush, and stroked it through the place where her hair once was. She hummed her usual melodic song, but stopped when she saw Duke Elegy. The look in her eyes went from shock to anger to hurt to awe. He smirked. "Hello, Rose." Aldrich entered his study slowly after noticing the door was left ajar. After what happened with Viscountess Verdi, he was sure something was wrong. And although he expected to find something strange, he did not expect to see Count Perdue standing before the grand mirror in his study, whispering to himself in an arcane tongue. "Count Perdue? What are you doing?" Aldrich's unease deepened as he approached, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. Count Perdue seemed oblivious to Aldrich's presence, lost in the dark enchantment that gripped him. "Count Perdue, answer me. What is this incantation?" Aldrich knew that it was Count Perdue because he was facing his profile. But as he came up behind the man, he saw that the reflection was not Count Perdue's own, but that of Marquise Carlson. The Count turned slowly to face Aldrich, his expression vacant, yet tinged with an unsettling smile. Marquise Carlson's expression looked exactly the same in the mirror. "It was you, the silver box in the courtroom. You set me up." Count Perdue and Marquise's mirror self continued just smiling at him, but their heads began twitching. Whether it was due to fear or rage, Aldrich suddenly lost his temper. "Ah!" Aldrich ran towards Count Perdue, gripping his throat with all his might. As he smashed the back of Count Perdue's body into the mirror behind him, blood trickled down the back of his head, across all of the shattered glass, and Marquise Carlson's reflection spread throughout the shards, and then disappeared. Aldrich continued hitting Count Perdue's head against the mirror until a shard came loose and impaled the back of the Count's skull. A gasp escaped Count Perdue's lips as dark energy surged from his body, tendrils of shadows intertwining with the broken glass. "Farewell, old friend." Aldrich released his grip on Count Perdue's lifeless form. the broken mirror reflecting the aftermath of his fit of rage. Dark energy seeped from Count Perdue's body, entwining with the shattered glass and forming an eerie tableau. May your twisted soul find its place in the abyss. Aldrich surveyed the room. The whispers that had once echoed ominously now faded into an uneasy silence. The Dark Queen will know we are not afraid. He knew he had to send a message, a declaration of defiance against the encroaching darkness. Aldrich, guided by a resolute purpose, dragged Count Perdue's lifeless body through the corridors of the Eastern Palace. The sinister echoes of his footsteps reverberated as he approached the palace's grand entrance. Under the pale moonlight, Aldrich displayed Count Perdue's body at the palace's front gate. The dark energy that lingered around Count Perdue's form cast eerie shadows, creating a macabre display. This is the price of betrayal. Let it be known that Elysaria does not cower in the face of the dark. Our realm will not succumb to the shadows. Aldrich left Perdue's lifeless form as a chilling testament, a warning to the forces that sought to plunge Elysaria into eternal darkness. The courtyard bore witness to the silent declaration, an offering of defiance against the encroaching threat. Reginald knelt before the imposing figure of the Dark Queen, his eyes gleaming with a wicked reverence. The throne room echoed with an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional screech of a bat. She sat on her throne and looked upon the top of Reginald's head. My queen, our deceptions are masterful. Rose remains a puppet, dancing in the shadows of our grand design. The Dark Queen smiled at him and reached out her hand, gently stroking the side of his face.
Her naivety is a powerful weapon. The power-hungry often starve in their pursuit of what they crave most. Let us revel in her ignorance.
Your wisdom guides us, my queen. The realm will tremble as Rose unwittingly heralds its doom. Reginald bowed lower, a wicked smile playing on his lips. The Dark Queen's gaze held a promise of malevolence, their alliance forged in the shadows of deceit. And Duke Elegy is here, ensuring her strings remain tangled in our control.
Duke Elegy's manipulation has always been a useful tool. Rose will dance to our tune, orchestrated by hands she can't see. The people of Elysaria are mere moths to her flame. They flutter towards her light, unknowingly surrendering their will to her whims, and we shall stoke that flame, using it to cast a shadow that will envelop the very essence of this realm. Rose's beauty will be both her shield and her downfall. Her beauty shall be the beacon that leads Elysaria astray. The realm will succumb to the darkness, and Rose will be the unwitting harbinger of its demise. The people will learn that the beauty and charm of a concubine is not one to be taken lightly. We shall reclaim the power that was taken from us. It really is such a shame the girl is such a fool.
The Queen took a deep sigh.
Elysaria is but a stepping stone to a greater throne, one that shall encompass the entirety of this fractured world.
Reginald, still kneeling, looked up at the Dark Queen, his eyes widening with a mixture of awe and trepidation. She smiled coldly.
Elisaria is but the first jewel in my crown.
She rose from her obsidian throne, her presence expanding like a malevolent storm. She reached her fingertips and brushed them lightly down Reginald's spine.
Get me the fairy tears.
The inhabitants of the Celestial Isles dungeon were growing restless, as it had been nearly 24 hours since they were brought any food or water. Had the guards finally agreed that they were better off dead, leaving them to starve? Old Duke Kerridge stared blankly ahead, not participating in his fellow inmates' revolts. After being transferred to the Celestial Isles prison from Elisaria, he was convinced that he had nothing to live for. He might as well wither away here, he thought. Suddenly, the doors swung open, and what seemed like hundreds of fierce-looking men poured in like water during a flood. For a moment, he thought these people were going to be the prisoner's salvation, and he was numb. If they let him out, he thought, at least he could end his life on his terms. But these men weren't there to help them. They had the keys to the cell doors, and they were swinging the doors open and beating the prisoners within and beyond inches of their lives. The old Duke looked towards the door of the dungeon and saw a guard slumped on the floor in a pool of his own blood, which was flowing from a massive wound in his chest cavity. Who are these men? He tried to keep deep breaths, readying himself for what was to come. He had dreamed of death ever since Catherine met her untimely one. He longed to reunite with his daughter and fantasized about the afterlife like it was the future. As a scarred man with a green bandana covering his mouth approached his cell, he saw another man, a bandit, holding a blue, pulsating piece of stone etched with what looked like ancient symbols. The bandit took the stone, which looked like it had been taken from some sort of pillar, and brushed it against the slit he had just created in a man's throat. The man, now just a corpse, began to hum with electricity. The lifeless body on the floor convulsed with sudden animation. Its eyes, devoid of any spark, flickered with an otherworldly light. The old Duke's breath caught in his throat as he witnessed the impossible. The reanimated corpse lurched forward. Its movements were jerky, devoid of the grace that living beings possessed. It turned its head unnaturally to face the old Duke's cell, eyes fixated on him with a hollow gaze. Meanwhile, the masked bandit approached the old Duke Kerridge's cell, his eyes glinting with malice. The bandit raised a dagger, ready to strike, and the old Duke suddenly realized he had a reason to stay in the realm of the living. With a trembling voice, he spoke out to the bandit. "Wait! Spare my life. I will offer you a fortune beyond your wildest dreams." "Wealth? What could you possibly offer that's worth more than your life?" "My daughter, Catherine. She was taken from me, and I would give anything to see her again. I have vast riches, treasure beyond measure. Spare me, and I will give you everything I own. Bring her back to me, and the wealth is yours. Catherine is no ordinary woman. She was the former queen of the Celestial Isles, And with both of us alive and on your side, you won't just have control, but willful influence over the entire realm." The bandit's eyes widened at the revelation. The prospect of untold riches and having the former queen under their sway stirred a newfound interest. "The former queen, you say?" The old duke, sensing an opportunity, spoke with earnest desperation. "I have documents, hidden maps, and keys to secret vaults. I'll provide everything you need. With Catherine by your side, you can control the Celestial Isles without resistance. Imagine the power, the wealth, and the fear you'll instill in the hearts of all who oppose you. Your leader will have people who fear him and love him." The bandit swirled his dagger to and fro, weighing his options. "Fine. I'll spare your life, old man. We'll strike a deal. Come with me." Sunlight streamed through the windows of the den in Liliana's house, where Isidore played with his toys on the floor while Liliana tended to her daily chores. Liliana looked at Isidore when she heard his toys clatter on the floor.
"Careful, love."
But he did not pick the toy back up. His eyes glazed over the way they had a few times before, and Liliana ran over to him, concerned. An eerie humming filled the air, growing louder and more ominous with each passing moment. Isidore glanced up, as if towards the source of the noise. "Hello." Liliana swung around towards the fireplace and gasped. The stone mantle was pulsating with blue light all around it, and the strangest figure she had ever seen stood in front of the fireplace. The figure appeared half dead, caught between the realms of the living and the dead. A ghastly pallor obscured its features, and its eyes emanated an otherworldly glow.
"Isidore, stay behind me."
The figure's face, or what was left of it, bore the haunting remnants of a once living being, with sunken hollows where eyes should be. His jaw hung from his face as if in a scream. As the figure moved, it left a faint trail of ghostly whispers in its wake, a symphony of disembodied voices that seemed to echo the sorrows of the afterlife. Its movements were slow and deliberate, as if governed by forces unseen. It extended a hand, as if inviting them to take it. Liliana instinctively shielded Isidore, her heart pounding with fear and confusion.
"What do you want? Leave us alone."
The figure remained silent, but continued to walk towards her.
"Stay away."
But the entity began to move with unnatural speed. In an instant, it cast Liliana aside with an ethereal force, her body colliding with the furniture, sending a sharp pain through her.
Ah!
Her desperate cry echoed through the room as the figure reached out for Isidore, its fingers extending towards the child. The pulsating blue light grew more intense. Isidore, still under the strange influence, remained eerily calm. The figure grunted as he kneeled next to the child. Liliana struggled to stand up, but when she looked at her leg, she saw that her shin was twisted in the wrong direction. She was not able to rise.
"No! Leave him alone!"
Isidore turned towards Liliana, his eyes still glazed over. "Bye-bye, Aunt Lily."
"No! No, Isidore, no!"
Isidore reached his hand out for the half-dead man's, and the figure's jaw contorted in the grotesque mimicry of a smile. With Isidore in its grasp, It began to move towards the fireplace, where the pulsating light seemed to respond to its presence.
Please, don't take him. What do you want?
The ghostly whispers grew louder, merging into a dissonant chorus reverberating through the room. The figure, with Isidore in tow, stepped into the radiant glow of the fireplace. As the figure and Isidore entered the pulsating light, the room trembled. Liliana, still recovering from the forceful impact, could only watch with helpless horror as they disappeared into the unknown, leaving only lingering whispers in their wake.
Isidore? Alexander had finally drifted off to sleep, and I was waiting for Matilda to draw an evening bath for me. It was strange, going through the days as if we weren't awaiting the apocalypse. But all we had right now were the moments we were in. I had spent so much of this last year and a half either lingering on the past or fearing for the future, and I looked forward to just 1 hour where I did neither. I just wanted to soak in lavender, bathing in any water other than my tears. I sighed and gazed out the window at the setting sun. Your Majesty? What is it, Matilda? Is the bath prepared already? Word has come from the capital. What word? Liliana, the daughter of the late Viscount Rothescue and sister of Alan. Do you remember her? Yes, what about her? Is everything all right? Is she safe? Well, yes, she is safe. She's in the infirmary right now. She's physically stable, but she is catatonic. What happened? One of her neighbors heard screams coming from her home and rushed to check on her and found her with a broken leg on the floor of her den. The neighbor flagged a passing guard who rushed her to the palace infirmary, aware that she had a good relationship with His Majesty King Aldrich. Matilda, why is this urgent news for me? Well, King Aldrich sent one of his messengers for me to relay this information to you. The one thing Liliana said when she got to the infirmary was that Isidore... Yes? Matilda looked at Alexander, and then back at me. Isidore was kidnapped. I gasped, and instinctively put my hand on Alexander's crib. She claimed it was a half-dead creature who disappeared into a pulsating blue stone, that Isidore had been possessed, and then she passed out. Matilda looked down at the ground, almost ashamed. King Aldrich thought it was important for you to know that they're coming for children. I nodded regally, but my eyes were filled with tears, and fear filled every inch of my muscles. Thank you. Please leave me. Matilda nodded, and left me to my thoughts. The Oracle's tower loomed in my thoughts, a place of both refuge and enigma. Her neutrality offered no guarantee of safety. Fear for Alexander gripped my heart, but doubts lingered about the mystical tower's true protection. In the stillness of the night, I contemplated the choices that bound me, and found myself standing at the crossroads of queen and mother. The responsibilities that weighed upon my shoulders, both as the realm's sovereign and as the guardian of my son, tugged at the very fabric of my being. As a queen, I am entrusted with the welfare of Elisaria and the Celestial Isles. The burden of leadership demands calculated decisions and strategies that safeguard my people from the encroaching darkness. The Oracle, a mysterious beacon in these uncertain times, offers a glimmer of foresight that may shape Alexander's destiny. Can I trust her visions, her impartial gaze into the tapestry of fate? My heart ached with the raw vulnerability of a love so fierce it borders on madness. My precious son, Alexander, may soon become a pawn in a game played by unseen hands. The half-dead, the pulsating blue stone, the cryptic machinations that threaten to consume him. A mother's nightmare woven into the fabric of reality. I wrestled with indecision, teetering on the precipice of the unknown. But tonight, as the stars silently bore witness, I find a resolution crystallizing within me. Fate, with its capricious whims, must be embraced. I cannot protect him from every peril, nor shield him from destiny. A newfound callousness settled over me like armor, encasing my heart in the unyielding resolve of a queen who would stop at nothing to defend her realm. My footsteps echoed with purpose as I approached Alexander's crib. May the oracle watch over you, my love. For our legacy, I must tread the path that lies ahead. Leaving behind the tender vulnerability of a mother's love, I stepped into the corridor, Alexander in tow, with a warrior's determination. The air was thick with the weight of sacrifice as I made my way to the oracle's tower. But in this sacrifice, I found the strength to become a queen unburdened by fear, ready to face the darkness with a sword in hand, and the resolve to kill for the kingdom and my son.
Rose wandered the strange and frightening new realm in which she found herself. She weaved her way between dark spires that towered overhead and war tents constructed from the skins of various animals, some of which seemed to be too human for comfort. She passed lines of half-crazed, haggard individuals who had been her fellow prisoners in the dungeon of Elisaria. Now, they were soldiers in the Dark Queen's army, waiting to be handed crude but vicious-looking weapons. One of the men distributing the weapons was Reginald, who gave her a slight wave and a crooked grin. She kept on her way, with no destination in mind, but unwilling to linger long in any one spot. A short ways off, Rose heard a strange whoosh and then the cries of a toddler. She hurried toward the sound. The Dark Queen stalked towards one of the war tents, followed by two surly bandits, one of whom was carrying Isidore.
Isidore?
The terrified child looked her way. He reached out for her, but was carried into the tent and out of sight. Rose stepped forward, but was abruptly blocked by the shafts of two steel axes wielded by armored knights who stood on either side of her.
Let me pass. That is my child. I must go to him.
The knights said nothing.
Please, I beg you. I am sure Her Highness the Dark Queen would understand.
Still, these strange knights did not respond. Defiantly, Rose pounded on the armor of one of these mute guards.
Have you no decency? No honor? Would you deprive a mother of her right to comfort her child?
She struck at the immovable knight again, this time knocking back his visor and revealing a skeletal face beneath.
Dear gods!
The gods have no place here. This is the realm they forgot.
Rose turned to find Reginald standing just behind her.
Word of advice. I wouldn't go poking around where you haven't been expressly invited.
I must help my child.
I am sure she will let you see him again before long.
Who is she to tell a mother when she can see her own child?
She is the queen, and you do well to remember that.
With that, Reginald stalked back toward the line of prisoners turned soldiers. Rose sat on a stone and wept. It seemed no matter where she went, there was always someone above her, pulling the strings and controlling her life. The refugees of the Celestial Isles marched along the road toward Elisaria. Henry walked among them. Though he had a horse he could ride, he opted to go on foot, like most of his citizens whose lives had been uprooted. He did not wish to be above them, but beside them. Haxan, too, walked with him, though the men had said little to one another since this journey began. Up ahead, a group of young children were running around playing tag. Henry recognized Haxan's nephew, Sebastian, as one of the group. He marveled at them.
Isn't it amazing, Haxan? The lives these children knew have been utterly destroyed. And yet here they are, playing.
Yes, children are adaptable. Far more so than adults.
If only we could be thus, then the weight of the world would not feel quite so heavy.
The two men carried on in silence a little while longer.
I have been thinking. It might be prudent for me to venture off and try to unite the remaining members of our tribe. We will need all the help we can get in the coming days.
Henry contemplated Haxan's words.
I would prefer to keep you by my side.
I would not be gone long, Your Majesty. I need only mention to the others that we require assistance, and they would fly to our aid. I am certain.
Well, then, I suppose.
Henry was interrupted by a child's scream. Immediately, he and Haxan looked ahead to the group of children, who seemed just as startled by the noise. Sebastian was not with them.
Where is Sebastian?
The children pointed to the woods. More screaming emanated from where they pointed. Haxan took off at a full sprint. Lady Eleanor rode up on her grey steed.
Is everything all right?
Keep to the caravan. Do not let anyone enter the woods.
Henry hurried after Haxan. In the woods, Haxan looked all around for his nephew.
Sebastian! Sebastian!
A small arm grabbed him and pulled him around a tree. It was Sebastian.
Dear boy, what are you doing?
But Sebastian put a finger to his mouth, gesturing for Haxan to be quiet.
I saw something in the woods and wanted a closer look. The other kids were too frightened. What did you see? That.
Haxan peered around the tree. A giant was lumbering in their direction. It stood well over 20 feet in height, and its skin was a myriad of splotchy colors. A patchwork quilt made from the flesh of different people stitched together. It placed a meaty hand on the trunk of a nearby tree and looked around it with glowing eyes, searching for something. Or someone.
It's looking for me. We must keep absolutely quiet.
Haxan! Sebastian!
No, no, no.
The giant abandoned its search, stomping toward Henry's voice instead. Henry soon caught sight of the thing, and it caught sight of him.
What evil is this?
Henry drew his sword, a veritable twig compared to the size of this beast. Sebastian watched in horror as the monster approached his king. A surge of courage overtook him.
Leave the king alone! Sebastian, no!
But Sebastian darted toward the giant before Haxan could grab hold of him. Henry's eyes widened at the sight of the young child, who scooped up a handful of stones and hurled them in the direction of the giant.
I said, leave him alone!
The giant took one step toward the child,
but Henry slashed at its leg. It swung a barrel-sized fist at the king, who narrowly dodged out of the way. Haxon reached Sebastian.
Quickly, while it is distracted, run back to the road and do not stop.
Sebastian did as he was told. He raced in the direction of the caravan, but was spotted by the giant, who, heedless of Henry's attacks, trudged after the boy. Haxon joined Henry in slashing at the giant. It glared at the two men, swinging and kicking at them.
I will keep it distracted. You must go. Now! Do it, Henry! Please!
Henry nodded. Haxon yelled and waved his sword, reflecting sunlight into the eyes of the giant.
Here, beast! Here!
Henry hurried back to the road where his panicked subjects stood, shaking at the monstrous sounds echoing from the trees. He approached Lady Eleanor.
A giant roams these woods. We cannot pass safely into Elisaria. You must fall back and take the road to Rhett. Tell them that their forces are needed. The fate of all our kingdoms is at stake.
You are not coming.
Henry lifted Sebastian and placed him on Eleanor's horse.
I must help Haxon. I trust you to lead our people to safety. Go now!
Henry ran into the woods as the caravan turned back at Lady Eleanor's urging and retreated.
Haxon! Haxon!
He saw Haxon locked in fierce combat with the giant. The foul creature had many cuts about its legs from the wounds the two men had inflicted, and yet it did not bleed. Haxon tumbled to avoid a crunching blow.
Your Majesty, what are you doing here?
I could not leave you.
But the people, you are their king!
And you are my friend! We will rejoin them when we have vanquished this monster.
Henry dodged an attack. The two men stood on either side of the creature. Looking back and forth between them, it seemed unsure which to strike at next. Then, it seemed to make a decision, narrowing its gaze on Henry. It took slow, deliberate steps toward the king.
It is coming for me. Be ready to strike. Strike it behind the knees. Bring it down.
While the creature was distracted by Henry, Haxon stealthily crept behind it, raising his sword and preparing to hack through the tender flesh just behind its right knee. Henry stared up and saw a knowing smile creep onto the giant's face. Then, all at once, it whirled around and brought the flat of its palm down on Haxon.
Haxon!
But a flash of silver light shone from under the palm as Haxon, now in bird form, slipped through the beast's fingers just in time.
Ha ha ha! Well done, Haxon!
The silver hawk circled the head of the giant, who swatted and clawed at the tiny thing. Haxon landed on the giant's face. He plucked out one of the beast's glowing eyes. The creature roared in pain and anger. Now half blind, it grasped again at Haxon, but he was too quick. He soared into the sky. The giant wrenched a thick, gnarled branch from a nearby tree and hurled it at the bird.
No!
The huge tree bough collided with Haxon, who cried out and spiraled down toward the earth. The giant, satisfied with knocking the pesky bird from the sky, covered its empty socket and lumbered off deeper into the woods. Henry sprinted to the spot where Haxon landed. There was another flash of silver light,
and he saw the silver-haired man lying bloody and prone on the ground.
Haxon!
I got its eye.
Yes. Yes, you did. It was amazing.
Where is Sebastian? Sebastian!
He is safe. He is with the caravan.
You must watch that boy. Always wandering off. Never wanting to be told what to do. Like someone else I know.
Henry let out a small laugh. Tears welled in his eyes. Haxon took hold of his hand.
Will you watch him? Guide him? Help him to grow into a man?
Yes. I am here with you. I'm here.
Haxon writhed in pain. His eyes lost focus. He looked around, disoriented.
I'm hurt, Prince Henry. We mustn't tell your father. We can't tell him we were roughhousing again. He will be very cross with me.
I won't tell him.
Good.
Haxon smiled. Good. The light went out of Haxon's eyes. Henry wept over him. In the afternoon, light fell from between the branches overhead. Henry placed a final stone on top of the pile, which covered Haxon's body. Henry kneeled a moment longer in silent prayer, then stood. He looked off toward the road, then up to the sky.
You were right. We will need all the help we can get. The task of assembling our tribe now falls to me. I will not fail in this. I promise.
In a flash of golden light, Henry took to the air. He struggled to gain altitude, as his one wing was still badly injured. He no longer had Haxon to help him, but he pushed onward. He had a mission to complete. The Dark Queen sat on a throne crafted from bones. She held Isidore on her knee, stroking his head. It was a tender gesture, but in this case it was utterly devoid of any love. Isidore rubbed his eyes, exhausted from crying. Nearby, old Duke Kerridge paced anxiously.
Your incessant movement is starting to try my patience. Be still.
Apologies, my queen.
The old Duke stopped.
They are here.
Kelderic and a group of bandits entered the tent, carrying a dirt-stained coffin between them.
Plucked fresh from the Celestial Isles as requested, my liege.
Very good.
It is her coffin. I recognize it.
I did not ask you to speak.
Kerridge shut his mouth.
Remove the lid.
The bandits pried off the lid of the coffin, revealing Catherine's decayed corpse.
Oh, my poor girl.
The Queen shot him a menacing glance, silencing him once more.
My. She does look fright. Normally, I do not mind such things, but the people in the mortal world are so sensitive. Let us make her beautiful again.
She stretched out her hand. Her thin fingers glowed with a pale light.
What's rotted will be made anew. Repair the flesh, rebuilds anew. Until this body brings soul, and let Catherine again be whole.
My darling, my sweet, you have returned to us.
He turned to the Queen.
Thank you, my queen. Our family's riches will all be yours.
With Catherine back, would not most of the assets revert back to her?
The old man furrowed his brow, confused.
Well, only if I were to die, but...
What say you, Catherine? Would you pledge the entirety of your wealth to me? My wealth is your wealth, my queen. Well, that is good to hear. But with the matter settled, it seems we don't need the doddering old fool after all, do we?
She turned her cold eyes toward Kerridge.
No, we do not need him.
But, Catherine, you don't mean that. Surely. Something has changed in her. She would never say such a thing. Catherine, daughter, please.
Since I was the one who brought her back into the world, she's really more of my daughter now, isn't she?
She pointed her finger at Kerridge.
You foul witch!
Goodbye, old man.
Dark magic shot from her fingertip as the old Duke was lifted off his feet. His silvery life essence was sucked from his body as he convulsed and collapsed as a pale, lifeless husk. Most of the silver substance was absorbed through the Queen's finger, but she left a small handful in her palm and offered it up to Isidore.
Drink up, my boy, so that you can grow strong.
The toddler sipped up the silver liquid. His pupils dilated, and a darkness in them seemed to spread.
Good. Schuyler unfurled a large map of the capital and surrounding areas, placing it on Aldrich's desk, which had been cleared for the purpose. I looked around at Aldrich, Oscar, Cedrica, Sir Artemis, and a man whom I had only seen on a few occasions. His face was pockmarked with battle scars, and his mouth, which seemed always to be frowning, was nearly hidden beneath a thick moustache. This was Sir James, the general of Aldrich's armed forces. Schuyler spoke up, drawing all of our attention back to her. I have gone through a list of witness accounts detailing sightings of necromantic phenomena. Each one of the red dots on this map represents a location where one of these encounters took place. The map had nearly 100 dots, mostly clustered around specific sections of woods outside the capital. As you can see, most sightings took place here, in this part of the forest. I believe this is the most likely place to find the second obelisk, the source of the Dark Queen's remaining necromantic powers.
Is that your only evidence, young sorceress?
It is. It is better than no evidence at all. At least we have a lead.
It might be a fool's errand. Sir James, is this attitude really necessary? Apologies, my king, but I must ask the difficult questions. I have my men's lives to think about.
I wish we had more time to collect more information, but we do not. I admit that, for all I know, the stone could be in this very castle. But if all we can do is guess, I would rather it at least be an educated guess. She pointed at the map again. Oscar leaned in.
I will go and search for the obelisk in the woods.
Cedrico placed an arm on his shoulder. And I'll go with him.
You both have only just returned from a difficult quest. You needn't be the ones to do this.
We wouldn't be here now if Grand Duke Bjorn hadn't sacrificed himself destroying one of these things. It feels fitting that Cedrica and I should use the second chance he gave us to find the other obelisk and break the damned thing if we can.
Aldrich looked to me as if I had a say in the matter, but as often as I'd seen the determination in Oscar's eyes, I'd never seen a fire behind them quite like this one. If that is your decision, brother, and yours, Lady Cedrica, then may the gods aid you on this most vital quest.
Then that is settled. Sir James, ready your men to defend the capital.
It will be done, my king.
Sir James marched up and down the line of knights and soldiers who stood at attention outside the barracks.
Listen up, you lot. War is coming to Elisaria. It could be today. It could be tomorrow. It is enough to know that it will be soon. They say that I should prepare you, but there is no preparing you for what is to come. I am not prepared for it. We have never faced a threat like this. I tell you now, it is sure to be the stuff of nightmares, sights that would turn a sane man mad. Why am I telling you this? Because you deserve to know the truth. So no, I do not expect you to be prepared. But I do expect you to fight. I expect you to rise to this challenge together, side by side, to stare down the nightmares and tell them that they should be afraid. They have come to our domain, our streets, and the doorsteps of our homes where our families sleep. Let us make these bastards sorry they ever did so.
The Dark Queen mounted the stone steps, her feet almost gliding over them. She reached the top of a ruined castle structure, allowing her to view her vast army, an unruly collection of bandits, former Elisarian prisoners, undead soldiers, and monstrous animal hybrids. She stretched out her arms.
It is time. The shadows march on Elisaria. To war. To war!
Her army marched forward, passing into an area where the air was especially thick with a magical aura, like heat waves off the hot sand. As they entered the auric wall, they disappeared. From out of thin air, the Dark Queen's forces emerged beside a large, rune-covered stone obelisk in the forest. They marched on, and as they did, far in the distance, the capital, with its glistening palace, came into view.
Aldrich and I walked along the ramparts, bordering the palace grounds. Below us, soldiers marched. I had never in my life seen so much military activity in the capital. It's very strange. When I was younger, I often thought of what being a queen in wartime would be like.
Does it meet your expectations?
In some ways, yes. But there is an important element I neglected to imagine.
What is that?
The dread I feel. Aldrich nodded. I knew he felt the same fear in his own heart. He looked up at the sky, and I saw a change come over him.
I have never seen so many different birds of prey circling together.
His abrupt change of subject did not surprise me. He did not want to add to my fears by admitting his own, and did not want to lie by saying he was not afraid. He pointed up.
Bronwyn, look.
I looked up. He was right. Dozens of birds of prey of varying sizes and species circled overhead. One was spiraling down towards us. I recognized its golden color at once. Your cape. I need your cape.
What?
I yanked his cape off his back and readied it, as with a flash. The Midnight Hawk transformed back into Henry. I quickly wrapped the cape around his nude figure.
Henry?
I have brought allies, fellow members of my tribe.
He pointed at the circling birds. I do not see Haxon among them. A sorrow like I had never seen on Henry's face overtook him.
He is gone, killed by a giant. And, Bronwyn, the Celestial Isles have fallen.
What?
Gods help us.
Our people have fled to Rhett for safety.
Out there! Movement in the forest!
We gazed out over the rooftops of the capital and into the forest beyond. It was hard to see at first, but the longer I looked, the more certain I became that I could see figures moving between the trees. Even the branches themselves seemed to sway as a massive force shifted under them. I looked to Aldrich and Henry, who had reached the same conclusion. She's coming.
The men following behind Reginald were a ghastly sight. There were the bandits, clad in torn and bloodied green bandanas, scars of the victims they'd slain tattooed across their faces, arms, and torsos. Beside them stomped the prisoners Reginald had set free, men who did not have the luxury of choice when it came to fighting back against the empires that forced them into the basements for crimes as heinous as murder and as petty as stealing bread for their starving families. They were calloused, hardened by mistreatment, and sought revenge on the ones who wore crowns and ate pheasant while they were left to rot. The final piece of the army was perhaps the most treacherous of all, the undead. The reanimated corpses moaned through cracked lips as they dragged their limp, broken legs, their saggy grey skin, and outpouring guts through the forest, their bodies not only grotesque remnants of what they once were, but their minds empty vessels for dark magic. Reginald smiled as he regarded the troops, the men of whom he was now the general. The Dark Queen had promised his comeuppance, and she had come through. She is a great, merciful queen. Quiet now. Do you want us to get found out? Do you want to face her wrath? He nudged the eyeless courier in front of him hard. He knew nothing of this man, save that he was the man who knew the way. He thought about the irony of a slave whose job was to lead. He watched the man's slack jaw flutter in response to being kneed in the back, and he straightened his back a little more. He belonged in charge, he thought to himself, and, to his satisfaction, the blue pulsating rune the man who knew the way held was steadied. They continued for a bit when Reginald was interrupted once more by a curious prisoner.
Sir Reginald, when will we be informed exactly what we're doing? We have taken nearly every jewel in the palace of the Celestial Isles. The realm is nearly ours, and our queen's power is great. What else must we do? We must be prepared for what is to come.
Reginald's first instinct was to spit at this man, to inform one of the mutilated monsters in the army to hurt him, or worse, turn him into one of them. But this was a part of the story that Reginald took pleasure in. A prophecy comes to fruition, and fate reaches the forefront.
The child, I believe they call him Alexander, is undoubtedly being protected by the greatest strongholds Elisaria has available to them. Manpower and magic both. It will take an army to get to him, to stop what stands between us and him. And we must eliminate him if it's the last thing we do.
But why, my lord? Reginald's eyes flickered with a malicious gleam as he turned to face the prisoner, reveling in the opportunity to share his twisted vision.
Because, my loyal comrade, the child is the key to the prophecy, the one foretold to bring about the downfall of the Dark Queen. His existence threatens the very foundation of our newfound dominion. If we don't eliminate him now, we risk everything we've worked so hard to achieve. His death will solidify our reign.
But why is the child such a threat? What power does he hold?
Oh, my friend, doubt not the wisdom of the Dark Queen. She has foreseen all possibilities, which is the path to our ultimate victory. Alexander must die, and we shall be the instruments of his demise. The boy is no ordinary child. His birth is a rare convergence of magical bloodlines, a union that hasn't occurred in centuries. His parents are both mages of royal blood, a combination that could unlock unimaginable powers. The prophecy foretells that he will become a force that could challenge the very foundations of the Dark Queen's rule. The prophecy foretells that he will become a force that could challenge the very foundations of the Dark Queen's rule and the ancient sorcerers whose power she yearns to bring back into our realm.
Reginald's eyes gleamed with a fanatical determination as he continued to reveal the ominous truth.
If Alexander is allowed to grow, his potential for magic and influence could surpass even our queen's. He could rally the forces against us, uniting the realms and breaking the chains that bind them to the Dark Queen's will. We cannot allow that to happen. His death is not just a desire. It is a necessity for the survival of our dominion. His power is unpredictable and uncontrollable. The very essence of his existence threatens the balance we've established. It's not a risk we can afford to take. The Dark Queen has decided that Alexander must be eliminated at all costs.
And our queen holds this magic and influence as well.
She does now. She lay with a king on a magic bed, and her powers began to grow.
A king? Which king? Reginald chuckled.
Worry not about that, my friend. I assure you that you will not like the answers to these questions. Rest assured that he is one of us now.
The prisoners looked around at their fellow men, wondering if one of these zombies had once been a king. He gulped, slowly realizing the gravity of what he was part of. The army marched on deeper into the haunted woods, their mission clear. The man who knew the way suddenly stopped.
Here. We rest here, troops.
Reginald watched as the man who knew the way chanted to the rune he held, its light pulsating more violently. He looked ahead and saw the spires of the Elisarian royal palace in the distance.
We're nearly there, my queen.
Rose paced her new room, which felt like her old Elisarian room. It was like a twisted, haunted version of the only place that had ever really felt like home, if only briefly. She decided that it perhaps was best not to ask questions this time around, not to beg for more. She had been freed from the depths of the dungeons, taken under the wing of a woman who seemed to know her power, and she intended to rest peacefully in the bed she had been given. The greater good was sure to come. She deserved it.
Who goes there?
She looked at the doorway and shuddered at the sight of Duke Elegy leaning nonchalantly against her doorframe. Behind him was a twisted mockery of a royal corridor, with windows that looked upon a green sky and spiraling, menacing clouds. She had been afraid of the surroundings at first, but now she found them beautiful. She just would have preferred that Duke Elegy didn't block her view.
Leave.
But I just got here. She held her ground.
This is my room. My queen would not want you here.
Perhaps that's true. It's a good thing I'm just here to drop something off.
A gift?
Duke Elegy let out a genuine laugh. Always after a shinier and shinier jewel, aren't you? Rose glared at him, but her cheeks turned red in embarrassment. I know you're a fan of silver. Naturally, since you have, had such lovely silver locks. He looked behind him for a moment, and his demeanor changed. Come now, your mother won't hurt you. From behind Duke Elegy stepped out Isidore, whose cherubic face had pained confusion all over it.
Mummy?
I'm not your mother.
So cold. Would it help you to know that you have a very important child?
Rose's eyes perked up at this sound, and Duke Elegy let out a genuine laugh again. Rose blushed once more, frustrated and feeling victimized by her own greed.
Important how?
The queen whose realm you now live in is completing a puzzle. When were you born, Isidore?
The 3rd month, the 3rd day.
And what does your daddy tell you about that day?
There was a full moon, and it was rainy. I love splashing in the rain.
That's right. Very good.
Well now, that chair looks like a lovely place for a child to bundle up and get a good night's sleep.
Are you sleepy, Isidore?
Though he appeared a bit bashful, Isidore yawned and nodded his head.
Well, I'll leave you two to it then.
Wait, what?
But before Rose could spew curses at the despicable Duke, she was left alone in a room with her son for the first time since the day he was born. She looked him in the eye and felt like her heart fell into her stomach. He was beautiful.
Are you sleepy?
Isidore nodded, looking at the floor.
Would you like to sit on my bed? It's quite comfy.
He nodded again and walked over to her bed, laying his little head on her pillow. His eyes softened immediately, like it was the most comfortable pillow he had ever felt.
Are you really my mummy?
Yes.
Auntie always sings me a lullaby.
I just need to train.
I sat on Henry's bedside, gently stroking his calf. His skin was paler than I had ever seen, and even his violet eyes appeared grey. His arm was black and blue as if bruised, but I knew it was an injury far more severe than a bump or a wound. The pain was coming from within, from his hand on the jewel, whose power we could only imagine. I wished he had let me return that very tear when I wanted to. You just need to rest.
Do you think I'm going to sit idly by after evacuating my country? After watching my family be slaughtered? My friends impaled? It's not just the Celestial Isles. Elisaria is next. You need me.
I know all of this, Henry, but you cannot fight. A king doesn't need to be on the front lines. He needs to lead his people. With you at the helm of this fight, we will lose a warrior and a leader. Thick teardrops began to stream down Henry's face, and he sobbed so hard it almost sounded like screaming. I had never seen him like this.
He saved me, and I did not save him. I never told him.
Haxon knew you loved him, and he loved you too. Please do not waste his honor by losing your life, by taking my husband from me, Alexander's father. But that was the last I heard from Henry, besides his sobbing and gasping for air. I stroked his leg until he fell asleep, and then felt anxiety rise through my chest. Henry was wounded. He was weak, he was distressed, but he was determined to fight. It was not safe, and I was afraid. I did not want to lose him. I walked slowly through the southern palace towards my chambers, fretting over what was going to happen. Fate was fickle, and our future looked bleak. I clutched my heart as if I could slow its beating that way. The room went black, and all I could see was a field of grass and several small grey stones. As the vision came into focus, I realized there were gravestones. A soft rain fell. I saw a small girl standing in the distance and walked towards her. She was the only other person there. She stood beside a gravestone, and I could not make out what it said. She turned to me, and I gasped. It was me. What's going on? I stared at myself, age 6 or 7 in the face, terrified and confused. But she looked back at me with a serene look on her face. He's in there. She pointed at the gravestone. Who? Your husband.
Bronwyn? Bronwyn? Bronwyn!
Suddenly I was back in the southern palace corridor, being shaken awake by Aldrich. What happened?
You were convulsing. Did you have another vision?
I began to cry. Henry cannot fight, but he will insist he is going to die. Aldrich's brow furrowed with a series of emotions. I could nearly see him burying his jealousy, his disdain.
He is far too injured to fight, in body and spirit.
I must go to his stead.
Bronwyn, you know I cannot allow you to face the dangers of the battle. It's too perilous, and I can't bear the thought of losing you. I couldn't do that to Henry.
I have these powers, Aldrich. Powers that can change the course of our fate. Powers that might just save us all.
You cannot yet control these powers.
I can. I've been practicing my magic and my swordsmanship with Sir Artemis. I focused on my emotions. My fear for Henry, my love for Aldrich, and my responsibility toward my people. The air around me grew colder, and I could sense the power within me responding.
What is this?
Watch. I extended my hand, and a delicate layer of frost covered the corridor wall. The air shimmered, and Aldrich's eyes widened as an intricate ice pattern formed. focused on a nearby marble statue depicting a heroic warrior in mid-swing. The air around me chilled as my powers surged. The statue's surface began to shimmer with a layer of frost, delicate at first, then thickening rapidly. As the ice encased in statue, its features frozen in time, I extended my hand towards it. The ice responded, following my command of emotions. Shatter. The frozen warrior shattered into 1,000 pieces, the sound echoing through the corridor. The shards disintegrated into icy particles, leaving no trace of the once proud statue. This power is not just for show. I can use it to our advantage in battle.
You're right. We need every advantage we can get. If this is your destiny, then I won't stand in your way. Just promise me you'll be careful.
I promise. The moon cast a soft glow on the courtyard of Elisaria, where flowers bloomed, and a gentle breeze whispered through the air. Skylar strolled somberly through the serene surroundings, and as she turned a corner, she found me sitting on a stone bench, my face stained with tears. Your Majesty? I looked up, startled, hastily wiping away my tears. Skylar, I didn't expect anyone to find me here. Sometimes the solace of a quiet place is what we need. May I join you? I nodded, and Skylar gracefully settled beside me on the bench. You've been carrying a heavy burden. It's okay to let it out. I sighed, my guard momentarily dropping. I'm supposed to be strong for my people, for Alexander, but every decision feels like a threat to humanity. The weight is too great. Strength isn't about never feeling the weight. It's about carrying on even when it feels unbearable. We sat in companionable silence for a moment, the night embracing them with its quiet comfort. Skylar looking up to the stars. You know, Dean Edgar used to tell me that stars are like our sorrows. They might seem endless, but each one holds a story, a journey. And just like the stars, your journey will lead to a brighter dawn, no matter how dark it seems. I smiled faintly. Dean Edgar was a wise man. I miss his counsel. I understand what it's like to lose everything, to have someone torn away from you. The veiled hands took Kaya, the love of my life, right in front of my eyes. Kaya. The pain of that loss is a haunting echo, a reminder of how fragile life is. I felt the cold embrace of emptiness, the void left by someone you held dear. Parents I never even met. I miss them somehow too. I don't want you to bear that burden, Queen Bronwyn. You don't have to. I don't want Alexander to suffer. He deserves a life free from the shadows that haunt us, from whoever this dark queen is and whatever she's planning. Then let's ensure that he has that life. I vow to protect him as if he were my own. No darkness shall touch him while I draw breath. Skylar, you've already lost so much. I can't ask you to bear more. We share a common pain, Your Majesty. Protecting Alexander is not a burden. It's a promise. I won't let him face the same fate as Kaya. We stand united. Skylar and I shared a moment of solace under the stars. A delicate bird descended from the night sky, gracefully alighting on Skylar's shoulder. Look, Skylar. It's like the night itself sent a messenger. Animals have a way of sensing when something important is happening. Perhaps she brings tidings of hope. Skylar, promise me you won't face this alone. We're stronger together. Let the people who care about you help carry the weight. You're right, Your Majesty. I've been too accustomed to facing my battles alone. But for Alexander, I'm willing to change that. Skylar gently stroked the bird on her shoulder, and it let out a melodic chirp, echoing in the courtyard. That's why Evelyn is here to help. Evelyn? It's all right, Ev. I brought you some clothes. The bird flew behind a hedge, and I heard a familiar whoosh. Skylar tossed a nightgown over the other side of the hedge, and out from behind it emerged a tall woman, who appeared to be around Skylar's age. Your Majesty, this is Evelyn. She's a dear friend from the Magical Academy, and a member of the bird-headed tribe. I'm here to fight, Your Majesty. The army of the undead took my child from my arms and ripped him in half with their bare hands, and paraded him on a spear like a prize. I covered my mouth with my hands, shocked that such cruelty existed. When Skylar wrote to me and informed me that your child was in danger, I knew where my powers would be best utilized. Her eyes welled with tears. I will protect your son, like I wish I could have my own. All three of us women were crying now. The peace of the courtyard at odds with the troubles we had faced. Yet somehow, by their sides, I felt somewhat safer. Perhaps Alexander would survive, even if I did not.
The grand Elisarian corridors stretched out before Cedrica and Oscar, bathed in the soft glow of the afternoon sun. The intricate tapestries on the walls each held a story of its own. As they walked, the weight of their quest pressed upon them. A puzzle with missing pieces, as they contemplated what their tapestry might depict.
Oscar, the answers we seek may lie in the forgotten tales of the people. There's wisdom in the past.
But where do we start? The archives have been thoroughly combed through, and scholars have provided little insight. Cedrica paused, her eyes scanning the murals that adorned the corridor. Her fingers trailed over the carvings, as if seeking a connection to the past.
Prophecies and myths, Oscar. Our ancestors often wove the fabric of the truth into the tapestry of legend. We need to revisit those stories with a discerning eye.
Huh. Oscar had stopped, staring at one part of the mural.
What?
This pillar is in the mural. It has blue etchings on it that I've never seen in person. Perhaps a child drew over it. He shrugged and continued, as the two walked by the infirmary, careful to be quiet and not disturb those being treated inside. The sounds of hushed conversations and the occasional murmur of healers echoed in the air. A soft whisper emanated from the infirmary's partially open door, drawing their attention.
Pulsating blue light. It took Isidore. The creature, it just vanished into it.
That's Liliana Rothescue. Liliana lay on a bed in the infirmary, her eyes distant, recounting what seemed like a harrowing experience. The pulsating blue light appeared to be a recurring theme, intertwining Liliana's tale with the mysteries they sought to unravel. They walked inside.
Liliana, can you tell us more about this light? Did you see where it led?
Liliana looked at them, her eyes haunted by the recent events.
It's nothing like I've ever seen. The light engulfed everything and then it was gone, taking Isidore with it.
Cedrica, could this be connected to the portal we're searching for? A manifestation of the Dark Realm's influence?
Possibly. We need to find out more. Liliana, did you see anything else? Are there any details that might help us understand?
Liliana's gaze shifted, recalling the traumatic events.
There was a figure. A half-dead man holding a stone with ancient symbols. He used that stone on Isidore.
What did the man look like? Liliana's eyes filled with tears. She shuddered just to think about what she had seen.
His jaw hung from his face. He had no eyes. He was covered in dirt and smelled like fresh earth, like he had risen from the ground itself, straight from hell. We'll look into this. Thank you for sharing. Rest now, dear girl.
Leaving the infirmary, Cedrica and Oscar felt a renewed sense of urgency. The pulsating blue light and the mention of ancient symbols hinted at a connection between Liliana's ordeal and their quest to find the Dark Realm's portal.
We must investigate this further. The answers we seek might be closer than we think.
The woods, Oscar, the woods. My undying legions. Today marks a pivotal moment in our conquest. The child, Alexander, harbors a power that could challenge our dominion. But we, the shadows that dance in the abyss, shall not cower.
The Dark Queen's voice echoed with unholy fervor among her enthralled troops. The twisted beings bound by the Dark Queen's dark enchantments stood at attention, their eyes devoid of any trace of humanity.
Embrace the darkness within you. Let it surge through your veins like molten shadows. The time has come to prove that our power is unmatched, that the living and the realms beyond shall quiver before our might.
The undead soldiers clashed their weapons together, creating a metallic, resonant symphony. The Dark Queen's words were like a baleful melody, stirring a frenzied excitement among her legions.
For every soul that has fallen to my command, for every life extinguished in the name of darkness, we shall claim victory. Go forth, my minions. Seek the child, Alexander, and bring him to me.
The army erupted into a frenzy of motion, a relentless tide of skeletal warriors surging forward with unmatched enthusiasm.
Let the realms quake beneath our might. The dawn of darkness is upon us. Silence!
And with that, it became so silent that you could hear a pin drop.
As our men approach Elisaria to snatch the child, the one who threatens my throne, the resurrection of our king, we have the one whose blood is necessary to have him rise. As the prophecy states, the child was born on the 3rd day of the 3rd month, as thunder collapsed beneath a full moon. Tomorrow his mother shall slay him, and we shall arise to our full power.
Meanwhile, Rose looked upon Isidore as he slept peacefully in the doppelganger of the chair Aldrich had once given her. She was shocked at her own fear for the boy's life. She didn't realize that she cared whether he lived or died, let alone could be moved by the mere sight of him. There was no longer a question. She was not safe. She had to get out of this situation. She had been a slave before, and she would not be one again. She looked at herself in the mirror and began to cry.
I am not strong enough. I have no magic.
She knelt beside Isidore and wept, leaning her head against his small body. She felt something hard in his trousers pocket and reached in gently. There was a strange stone, and it pulsated blue at her touch. She stood up and fingered it curiously. There was warmth coming from it, and she pushed it against her nose, the tip of which had been cold since she had been put in the dungeon. She pressed it against her scalp, now less protected from the elements since she had shorn its hair. When she removed the stone from her scalp, silver locks came with it. The stone was reviving her beauty. Her hair began to flow, and she watched herself become beautiful again. She smiled at herself in the mirror and remembered how strong of a force her beauty could be.
I shall do what I do best then, shan't I?
And with that, she was able to drown out the noise of the Dark Queen. She once again felt that no one had any greater power than her. Soldiers all along the city walls shifted on their feet with nervous energy. They could hear the monstrous cacophony of the approaching horde, its roars and howls accompanied by the dull clanking of rusted armor. Aldrich stood amid his troops. He was no less afraid than his men, but his stern expression did not betray it. Like everyone else, he had his eyes fixed on the tree line, knowing that at any moment they would get their first glimpse at the foes they had to face.
Steady, men! Steady!
Then, from under the shadows of the trees, the first line of skeletal, rotted faces became visible. A few Elisarian soldiers screamed at the sight of the hideous beings. Their defensive line threatened to break before the assault had even begun. Sir James shouted out from nearby,
Another outburst like that, and I'll gut you myself! Show no fear!
The men quieted as more of the undead army emerged from under cover and approached the front gate. Aldrich narrowed his gaze at the sight of several units of men and women marching with green bandanas. So, the Eternal Thousand Bandits have indeed allied themselves with hell itself.
So they have. I do not see Kelderic in their number. It is not like him to forego the glory of fighting on the front line.
Perhaps the Dark Queen killed him. As if summoned, the Queen emerged from the woods, astride a massive skeletal deer, whose expansive antlers ending in sharpened points. She raised her hand, and her forces ceased their marching. The Dark Queen locked eyes with Aldrich, and a thin smile rose to her lips.
Good of you to meet me at the door. It saves me the trouble of hunting you down at the palace.
You shall never make that far.
I take it, then, that you do not intend to surrender.
Archers, ready your bows! Knock! Knock!
Straight to it, then? Very well.
Draw! Draw! Loose! Loose!
Hundreds of arrows filled the sky in a moment and fell like deadly rain on the Dark Queen's forces. Several bandits were felled in the volley. Undead soldiers, though pin-cushioned with arrows, stood their ground, unfazed. In a moment, the bandits who had been slain stood again, jaws slack, eyes vacant and glowing.
Our turn.
The Dark Queen pointed her finger at the city walls, and her forces charged the city walls.
Loose your arrows at will!
The sound of the combat in the distance could be heard through the open window of Aldrich's office. Slowly, The room began to fill with an ethereal blue light emanating from the fireplace. Small runes, which had been surreptitiously etched into the underside of the mantle, glowed brightly. The blue light in the hearth took on a blinding quality, and 5 figures stepped from it into the room. Dean Edgar alongside 3 other fellow undead mages, and Kelderic. The bandit looked around the room with a crooked grin.
Well, well, this room don't look half as lovely as I expected. Though I suppose it's hard to compare with the gold and jewels of the Celestial Isles.
Kelderic ran his hands underneath the mantle and touched the runes.
Good of Count Perdue to give us a way in. Not that he had a say in the matter.
With its leathery, dry skin pulled across the bone, Dean Edgar's hand latched on to Kelderic's arm and pulled it away from the mantle.
Do not touch the runes. The magic is unstable, and the portal may close. It is fortunate that it remained open long enough to allow us passage.
If it closes, simply draw more runes. Open another door.
Do not take these matters lightly, Kelderic. Her Majesty's powers are not limitless. Not yet.
Fine. I'll leave you to your mission and get to work on my own.
The walking husk that was the former Dean turned to his comrades.
Let us find the child.
Count Perdue's body hung in the courtyard in front of the palace, where it was displayed, a warning to followers of the Dark Queen. It swung gently in the breeze, but gradually, the swinging motion grew more pronounced. The body twitched and convulsed as Count Perdue lifted his head. He reached up and grasped at the back of his skull, where shards of Aldrich's broken mirror still jutted out. Festering fingers gripped one of the shards and yanked it from flesh and bone, then proceeded to use the sharp piece of glass to slice at the rope. After patiently sawing away, the Count soon hung by a mere few strands of rope, which suddenly snapped. His body crumpled to the ground, then rose, beginning a slow and steady march through the palace gates and toward the main gate of the city, toward Aldrich.
Even from within the palace, I could hear the fighting at the city gate. It was quiet and distant, possessing a surreal quality like when one hears the sounds of the waking world spilling into her dream. As long as the sounds of combat remained distant, I would know that our forces were victorious in keeping the evil at bay. Still, it was good to know that my ladies-in-waiting were out in the streets, organizing a civilian retreat to the palace grounds. I hoped Aldrich and Henry would be safe. But how safe can one truly be on the battlefield? I heard a strange sound echoing in the corridor. I approached with caution, not recognizing the voice. I peered around the corner, thinking I could spy on the source of the noise, and instead came face to face with an ambling corpse. Ugh! I backed up immediately as the thing lurched toward me. Its tattered robes signified that it had once been a mage. It glared at me with eyeless sockets. Its dry, mummified lips fixed its mouth in a permanent, gruesome smile. How had it reached the palace? One arm hung limply from its shoulder, dislocated and hanging by the flesh. It raised the other as an orb of green, magical energy formed in its palm.
Where, child?
You want my child?
Where, child?
I'll never tell you.
Then die.
It hurled its green orb at me, and I ducked out of the way just in time. The bricks cracked and chipped where the ball of energy struck the wall, seeming to age centuries in a second. What would such a spell do if it struck human flesh? I could see it forming another green orb in its hand. I realized I had backed into a set of decorative armor standing in the corner. I had nowhere else to run. My hand reached down, and I felt the hilt of the sword, which went with the armor. Without time to think, I pulled the sword from the display, sending the armor toppling to the ground. I swung the sword, my fingers tingling with icy magic as the blade frosted over. I sliced through the arm of the mage just as it was preparing to throw the orb. Immediately, the ball of energy dissipated, and the hand fell to the floor, shattering into frozen pieces on contact. I watched as the ice formed and spread from the end of the wound up the length of the mage's arm, encompassing his entire body. Finally, the mage was totally frozen. With one swift kick, I sent his body tumbling to the ground. Much like the hand, it shattered on the stone floor. I stared at my frost-covered sword in awe. With quiet restored, I became aware of the nearby hum of another magical effect. I followed the sound. I traced the source of the noise to Aldrich's office, which was lit by a strange, otherworldly glow. I stepped into the room and saw the bright blue portal in the hearth. So this is how the foul creature had entered the palace. I hurried over to the fireplace. Runes glowed on the underside of the mantle. With the blade of my sword, I scored across the runes, each one fizzing and blinking out as I did so. With each rune I destroyed, the portal flickered at a faster rate until, with the destruction of the final marking, the portal blinked out completely, leaving only the regular fireplace once more. I breathed a sigh of relief, but tensed up at the thought that maybe more creatures had made their way into the palace. What if they found the tower? What if they found Alexander?
Oscar and Cedrica trudged through the dense foliage of the forest, searching for any sign of the Dark Queen's obelisk. They paused to listen to the sounds of the battle several miles off.
So, it has started.
If only I could be in two places at once. I could aid them in their defense of the city.
We're aiding them by finding the obelisk and destroying it.
And if we should fail?
We will not fail.
Cedrica paused and looked back at her fellow knight.
It's not like you to be so full of doubt.
I have never turned my back on a battle.
You know we're not turning our backs. Our friends know it too.
Yes.
Oscar, what truly ails you?
I am afraid. The fear which grips my heart. I have never known its equal. In battle, I know the dangers I face. I can confront them. But these dangers are beyond my reckoning. If I fail on the battlefield, I know that I may die. But if we fail here, then everyone and everything we know will be lost.
Cedrica pulled Oscar in close.
I know the dread in your heart, for it's in mine too. Let it drive you. The Dark Queen seeks only power. We seek the protection of all we hold dear, and that is a motivating force beyond measure.
Oscar nodded and stood a little taller. They heard the sound of some unseen creature bolting through the underbrush. Multiple squeals and calls echoed all around Cedrica and Oscar as beasts rushed toward them from all sides. The brutes were half wild boar and half wolf, with the ferocity of both combined. They leaped and attacked. teeth and claws bounced off the shining armor of the two knights, whose swords cleaved through the first few beasts to attack. Others circled Cedrica and Oscar, then clambered up trees with sharp, bear-like claws.
You watch above.
Cedrica swung and cut another creature in twain. Oscar watched the branches as several of the monsters dropped down from the trees. Oscar killed the creatures as they dropped, but not before one of them slashed across his face. Finally, the two knights stood heaving and out of breath amid a pile of fallen beasts, some of which still twitched in their death throes.
They seem to me like guard dogs, if they can be called dogs. Do you realize what this means?
Oscar brought a hand to his bleeding face.
It means we shall have matching scars.
He offered Cedrica a faint smile. Cedrica was smiling too.
It means we're getting close.
Skylar and Evelyn stood in front of the tower where Bronwyn's child, Alexander, was being kept. Though he was under the watchful eye of the Oracle in her room at the top of the structure, Skylar worried that the woman could not be trusted.
Do you hear that? Fighting? Yes, it's dreadful. No, there is another sound.
Skylar listened more closely. There were indeed other strange sounds, faint but approaching. A green spell shot between the two sorceresses. They soon saw the source. Dean Edgar glared at the young women from a distance of 50 feet away. He raised his hands above his head, green energy crackling between his fingers.
God help us, it's the Dean.
Skylar's heart broke when she saw the Dean Edgar she had so admired turned into the puppet of the Dark Queen. But her sorrow would have to wait. Skylar crafted a fireball and hurled it at the Dean with speed and efficiency. The Dean raised his hand, and the fireball stopped mid-air, then fizzled out.
Have you ever seen that happen? No.
More spells were pelted at Skylar and Evelyn from different places. They looked around and saw the other undead mages approaching.
We're outnumbered. Focus on the other mages. I'll focus on Dean Edgar.
As she said this, the Dean hurled another green orb. Skylar reached out her hand. The orb came within an inch of contact, but stopped, and then slowly dissipated.
You see, Dean Edgar, you still teach me even in death.
As the sounds of magical combat echoed up the tower from below, the Oracle sat unmoved, staring at the wall. Alexander cooed in his nearby crib, on the verge of sleep. The angle of the sun streaming through the window meant that only part of the room was lit. The rest fell into a dark shadow, and in that shadow, something stirred.
Such a pretty baby.
The Oracle did not even turn her head as the Viscountess manifested in darkness.
A shape is made from a shapeless dark, which should have stayed in the dark. I want to hold him. Just let me hold him.
Alexander's crib lay in the beam of sunlight. Verdi's pale hands reached out, but dared not touch the lighted area.
You cannot have the child yet. The sun has time before it sets. But you could give him to me. You could just move the crib. Move it but a few inches into the shadow. She would be so grateful.
The Oracle made no move. She simply stared at the wall.
You oppose her, then? Fate is neither friend nor foe. It does not harm nor aid. The deck, though full of many cards, does not decide what's played.
Aldrich stared down at the undead forces attempting to breach the city walls. So far, every attempt had been unsuccessful. The heavy gates stood firm, and any undead dexterous enough to scale the wall was immediately knocked back and sent tumbling to the ground again. Before long, bandits brought forth siege ladders. Each time they attempted to set the ladder, birds of prey descended and pushed the ladders back. Aldrich saw Henry, some distance away, communicating with others of his bird-headed kin, who soon took to the skies again. Henry ran to Aldrich's side.
My scouts say something is coming. Something large. I believe it is the giant.
That may prove more than the walls can hold. Tell them to keep us informed about its distance. The thing may wander aimlessly.
Perhaps.
But neither man believed it. Henry moved off again to confer with more of his tribe. Aldrich marched along the length of the wall, encouraging his men as they fought. He kept his eyes forward on the foes outside, and so was utterly surprised when Count Perdue's clammy, cold hands closed around his neck from behind. Count Perdue threw Aldrich, who tumbled onto the wall's inner steps, stopping short of the edge. He looked up. It wasn't only Perdue that he saw. He could observe Marquis Carlson's ghostly face grinning at him in the shaded doorframe of one of the wall's guard towers. Aldrich stood, but Count Perdue was on him again, grappling the king with unnatural strength. He dangled Aldrich over the edge of the stairs. Aldrich looked down and saw he was directly below a line of spears being held in reserve. If Perdue were to drop him, he'd surely be impaled.
Help!
Aldrich attempted to call out to his men, but his voice was hoarse and choked by the undead hands around his throat. His soldiers were all entirely focused on the legions of the undead, so not one of them turned around.
Yeah!
From the wall, Henry leaped onto the stairs, bringing a sword down on Count Perdue's arms, severing them. Aldrich dropped and caught hold of the stone steps. He pulled himself back onto the stairs, still choking as Perdue's hands continued clinging to his throat. Henry lopped off Count Perdue's head, then kicked his body off the structure and onto the spears below. Henry pried the Count's hands off of Aldrich's throat and tossed them aside. The arms crawled and slithered away.
Thank you.
Of course, Your Highness.
Henry used his good arm to lift Aldrich back to his feet. The two men climbed the steps to the top of the wall. Aldrich peered into the guard tower where he had seen Marquis Carlson, but the fiend was gone again. Aldrich hoped that this time it was for good.
I could hear the sounds of spells being conjured and hurled through the air, and knew my fears were confirmed. More dead mages were in the palace, and they had discovered Alexander's hiding place. I could see one of the mages standing with a pillar, acting as a cover between him and the sorceresses. He did not hear me approaching from behind. Here! I swung my icy sword and cleaved the rotting mage in two, shattering both frozen halves on the ground. Two mages, one of whom I recognized as Dean Edgar, turned their attention toward me. The two mages hurled spells at me. I raised my sword, and to my amazement, the weapon which I had infused with my magic deflected both attacks. Evelyn and Skylar, capitalizing on the temporary distraction, sent their own spells flying. Dean Edgar dipped out of the way just in time, but the other mage was not so lucky. He burst into flames and crumbled to the earth. I rushed to the Dean, who uttered some vile, unintelligible speech. A putrescent green sword made entirely of magical energy formed in his hand. Our swords clashed. I was driven backward as the Dean delivered blow after blow. It was difficult to block each attack, and I feared I might trip over myself. I took a deep breath and remembered what Sir Artemis taught me. A great swordsman begins by mastering footwork. I adjusted my stance. Before long, with my careful footwork and precise strikes, Edgar was soon the one to retreat. I backed him right up until I saw that Skylar had a clear line of sight. Now, Skylar! I jumped backward as Skylar sent another fireball screaming towards the Dean.
No!
He was engulfed in fire. Unlike the other, however, he did not drop immediately, but ran toward me.
Ah!
I raised my sword, unsure how my ice magic would clash with Skylar's fire magic. But I did not need to find out. Dean Edgar crumbled to the floor in front of me, dead once again. I must head to the tower. I need to see that Alexander is all right. Without waiting for a response from the two sorceresses, I sprinted into the tower. As I feared, I threw open the door to the oracle's room and saw that Alexander was in grave danger. Viscountess Verdi stood near his crib, and the beam of the sun that kept her at bay had shifted, so that she could almost get her hands around him. A cloud passed overhead, blocking out the light. Verdi seized her chance, her pale hands shooting out toward my child. "Don't you touch him!" I swung my sword and slashed at the spirit across the back, half expecting the blade to pass through her like a shadow. To my surprise, it sliced her pale flesh. The Viscountess attempted to retreat to the shadow, but I stepped in her way. "You who fear the light, fear me." I thrust my sword into her midsection. Instead of blood, light spilled from the wound. The Viscountess screamed as soon as her whole body was aglow with pale light. Then she was gone. From his crib, Alexander cooed. I smiled. I emerged from the tower, weary but with a confidence unlike I had ever felt. Your magic is incredible, as is yours. I turned to Evelyn. "Evelyn, fly to Aldrich at the wall. Let him know that some of the Dark Queen's forces made it into the palace via a portal. It's been closed, and some of the enemies vanquished. But we cannot be sure that more did not make it through. Tell him that I will go to him shortly." Evelyn nodded, transformed, and flew with great speed toward the city's outer wall.
As panicked civilians gathered their belongings and retreated in the direction of the palace, a lone man made his way toward the city gates. Kelderic looked at the chaos around him and grinned, filled with a sense of pride. Already Elisaria was beginning to fall, a proud nation brought low. Up ahead, he could see a guard booth in which he knew the levers controlling the front gate resided. He slid a dagger into his sleeve and stepped lightly in that direction. After giving Alexander a tender kiss on his forehead, Bronwyn fled the tower. The queen, sorceress, and warrior were needed in multiple places at once, and Skylar had vowed to protect Alexander. She slumped down against the cool stone wall of the tower and breathed in through her nose, out through her mouth, trying to steady her breath.
Breathe. Just breathe.
She could not get the flash of light out of her head. The sight of Viscountess Verdi's reanimated spirit swirling into the ether. Is that what was in store for all of us? She wondered. Was Kaya a series of floating particles filling the air? Were her parents? If the remnants of unrequited souls formed that light, she preferred darkness.
The dungeon awaits for you.
Skylar had nearly forgotten that she and Alexander were not the only ones remaining in the tower. She looked up at the oracle, whose head was unnaturally cocked to one side, staring at her as if she were reading her thoughts.
The dungeon. The light plays tricks. You need not rely on your eyes in the darkness. In the dungeon's depths, shadows whisper the truth. The answers lie in the echoes of the past.
Skylar furrowed her brow, trying to decipher the cryptic message.
What do you mean, Oracle? What truths lie in the dungeon? A portal to the past. The answers you seek. Your transformation will be complete.
Skylar's eyes scanned the oracle for some sort of agenda, some answers beyond the cryptic puzzles she spoke in. But the oracle remained as still as a statue.
Portal. Transformation. The portal.
Skylar stood up with a new vigor.
Are you saying the portal to the Dark Queen's realm was in the dungeon? The dungeon is a journey, a winding path to the beginning. The shadows reveal the ties that bind. Please, keep a careful watch on Alexander. I must go to the dungeon. Thank you, Oracle, thank you. Seekers seek what their hearts do yearn, yet truths are found when expectations burn.
Skylar descended into the dungeon, the air thick with the musty scent of aged stone. Torchlight flickered on the walls as she moved cautiously, eyes darting in search of the obelisk, the supposed portal she believed would lead her to the Dark Queen's realm.
The obelisk. It must be here.
Skylar's footsteps echoed through the labyrinthine passage as she explored the depths of the dungeon. She searched every nook and cranny, anticipation building with every turn. She became frustrated as she continued looking, finding nothing upon nothing.
But the oracle said...
The dungeon remained silent, holding its secrets close. Skylar rounded a corner and stumbled upon a small, dimly lit chamber. Her heart raced with hope as she saw a peculiar-looking structure in the center, but it wasn't the obelisk she sought.
Is this it? The portal?
To her dismay, the structure revealed itself to be the Stormcloak couple, huddled in the corner, chained and broken, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and remorse as they recognized the woman before them. Her eyes widened, a surge of conflicting emotions coursing through her.
What are you doing here? All the prisoners escaped, why didn't you go with them?
We're paying for our sins, Skylar. The darkness caught up with us.
Skylar's eyes narrowed, a storm of resentment brewing within her.
Sins have a way of finding you, don't they? You deserve every bit of this darkness.
The Stormcloak couple flinched at Skylar's harsh words, their expressions reflecting the weight of guilt.
Skylar.
Skylar's tone turned venomous as she lashed out.
Don't you dare say my name! You, of all people, do not have the right to speak it!
The Viscountess Martha lowered her gaze, unable to meet Skylar's eyes.
Skylar, we know we've done wrong. The torment we inflicted on you, we were blinded by power, by the yearning that consumed us to find our real daughter. Please, find it in your heart to forgive us. We didn't know who you were.
Skylar scoffed, her bitterness unrestrained.
You knew I was a sorceress.
The Viscountess bowed her head, tears streaming down her face.
We are paying for our sins, Skylar. in the only way we can.
We've chosen to rot here, a fate that meets our behavior and what we've done to you. The least we could do is leave our wealth to you.
Skylar's eyes widened as she absorbed the revelation. The government official's visit and the mention of her parents suddenly clicked into place. A flood of memories, both painful and poignant, washed over her, threatening to drown her in the tumultuous wake.
The wealth. You're my parents.
Her voice trembled with the weight of the truth she had uncovered, the words heavy with a lifetime of unanswered questions and buried emotions.
Yes, Skylar.
The least we could do is ensure that you had a future.
Skylar's heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing the cacophony of emotions raging within her. She felt as though she stood on the precipice of an abyss, staring into the depths of her own fractured past.
You left me. Abandoned me.
Her voice was barely a whisper, choked with the bitterness of years spent in solitude, yearning for the parents she had lost.
No.
You were taken from us.
Taken.
Her voice was barely a whisper, choked with yearning for the parents she had thought abandoned her. Her fists unclenched, her anger giving way to a surge of empathy for the parents she had believed had forsaken her.
But why were you so cruel to me? We thought it was the only way to have Queen Rose continue the search for our daughters. The cruel irony is not lost on us.
We have done all we can at this point to repent for our sins. We left you what little we had left and are willing to rot here, to starve, to rid the world of scum like us, to keep it safe for you.
Skylar, our fate is sealed. Death is the only redemption we have left.
Skylar's heart ached with desperation, and she fell to her knees, pleading.
Reconciliation is possible. So can you if I find hope in my heart despite everything. Death is not the answer. We've caused too much pain, Skylar.
You deserve a life without our shadows bringing you down.
I've lived with the pain you've caused for so long. But you have one last opportunity to make things right. If I can find hope for a new beginning, can't you? We can face our past and build a future together. Don't be the shadow. Be the light for once.
Aldrich stood stone-faced as he looked upon the Elisarian men and those who came to stand behind them to fight. The army was increasing by the day as the troops were rallied, and even those who were not officially members of the army stepped forward to fight. He had become an emotional man over the last chunk of time, but now was no occasion to cry. He was moved, but he was moved to protect, to lead.
Your Majesty.
Aldrich turned his head to see a tall woman, eyes painted with a look of resignation. He knew that look. She had been through turmoil.
These front gates are no place for a woman, my lady. I suggest you head home. Protect yourself and your children.
My child was mutilated and murdered in front of me by the army of the dead. I am Evelyn. I have come to fight for your children.
I have no children.
Elisaria knows you care for Princess Beatrice, lad or not. And I come bearing news of Bronwyn, as I have just come from the tower where Alexander is being held.
Aldrich's stoic expression fell from his face at the mention of Bronwyn. What news?
She is headed for the battlefield. She has left Alexander with the Oracle, and is under the frequent watch of Skylar and myself. She has thwarted Viscountess Vardy, fighting magic with magic. She was able to silence her spirit once and for all. She asked that I relay this to you.
Is she headed here?
Evelyn nodded curtly, and Aldrich turned his head back towards the front gates. By the time he looked back at Evelyn, she was gone. But he could have sworn that the small bird flying towards Alexander's tower had the same hardened eyes.
On my way from the tower after defeating Viscountess Vardy, I nearly collided with Aldrich. What are you doing here? Why are you not on the battlefield?
Evelyn told me what happened, and how you fought magic with magic.
These Dark Queen's army members are entering through some sort of portal or portals. We have to figure out how they're getting in, and if the army of the undead breaches Elisaria's soil, we need me out there. The men you slay will just be resurrected to be twice as ruthless.
Come with me.
He opened the door to his chambers, and I couldn't help but look away at the embarrassing sight of my painting on the wall. You would think that nothing could surprise me after all we've been through, but this still does. Aldrich gave a sad chuckle and walked closer to the painting, slowly fingering the outline of my face and body, seeming to use more pressure in some spots than others. Aldrich, what in the world are you doing? There's no time for erotic games. But after one last touch, the frame of the painting seemed to detach itself from the wall, and behind the entire piece was what looked like a safe. What are you hiding in there?
It's a treasured family heirloom.
Drawing near, I observed as Aldrich reverently withdrew an ancient-looking sword.
Forged to safeguard our bloodline, this sword has passed through the hands of generations.
Aldrich cradled the sword with majestic reverence, the blade catching the dim light in the regal chamber. The intricate etchings on the blade, previously unnoticed, shimmered in the subdued glow.
I never noticed these details on the sword. I was always told that it would reveal its secrets when the time was right. This blade has witnessed countless battles. And now, it is poised for another.
Who was portrayed in that portrait? Gazing beyond him, farther into the guarded safe, my eyes fell upon documents and jewels. Atop the pile rested a portrait of Aldrich's father and a woman, not his mother. It is not your mother.
That's my father and his former concubine. She once held a significant place in his life.
The air in the regal chamber seemed to carry the weight of untold stories, a silent testament to the complexities of our shared legacy. What became of her?
She sought a life beyond the palace walls when she realized she could never occupy the place in my father's heart that my mother held.
Aldrich's gaze lingered on the portrait, a mixture of nostalgia and sorrow. A glimmer of light caught my eye, revealing the fairy tear in the safe. Aldrich sighed, acknowledging its presence.
Henry returned it to me after he was injured. He believed his injury was a punishment for wearing it as a symbol of my pain. Ironic, isn't it?
What is?
This fairy tear was intended as a gift to my father's concubine, if she bore his child. Instead, he bestowed it upon my mother.
Aldrich's eyes lowered, the hint of embarrassment coloring his expression.
That's why I gifted it to you. To affirm that Rose could never hold the same place in my heart as you.
Aldrich. The distinguished king sighed, his majestic sword affixed to his side as he made his way towards the chamber door.
Lock it up for me, would you? I cannot bear to gaze upon that portrait today. It pales in comparison to the real thing. I suppose we shall reconvene on the battlefield, my love.
I took a step towards the safe, ready to seal it closed, and analyzed the fairy tear one last time, I looked between the picture of Aldrich's father's concubine and back to the fairy tear. The concubine betrayed. I thought this jewel must contain a great deal of power in her mind. Fairy tear. Suddenly it hit me. Henry got so injured from this jewel because the Dark Queen needed it for her to succeed. You will remain protected. Closing the safe, I summoned the ancient powers within me. Ice magic encased the concealed treasures, and a glacial barrier formed, sealing away the vulnerability of the past behind the frozen canvas. May the secrets of the past not destroy Elisaria's future. With a graceful gesture, I extended my hand towards the edges of the portrait, weaving intricate patterns of frost with my ice magic. The icy tendrils coiled around the frame and merged with the stone wall. The frozen tapestry expanded, covering the entire portrait and securing it to the wall. The once concealed safe and its secrets were now enveloped in enchanted ice, ensuring physical and magical protection. I stepped back and admired my work, but then felt goosebumps cover my skin. Was this icy embrace a testament to my resilience, or how close I was to shattering? As I meticulously wove threads of frost around the encased portrait and the hidden safe, a lingering fear clung to the edges of my consciousness. The precious secret we safeguarded within these walls felt like a beacon, drawing the attention of the ever-encroaching darkness. The fabric of my magical stronghold seemed fragile under the weight of impending threat. Bronwyn, what's happening? I ran into Aldrich on my way up from the dungeon, and he mentioned you were in here. I skirted the safe and glanced at Skylar, grateful for her always seeming to be in the right place at the right time. We have something crucial within these walls, Skylar. The Dark Queen seeks it, and we cannot let her get her hands on it. I'm here to help. Whatever it is will keep it safe. With newfound strength emanating from Skylar, a shimmering aura surrounded her. She extended her hands towards the encased treasures. I fear that even this enchantment might not be enough. The Dark Queen's power is vast, and her desire for what lies hidden here is insatiable. Skylar, her eyes reflecting a blend of determination and understanding, stepped closer to me. We'll make it stronger, Bronwyn, together. Your fear is the seed from which your courage grows. Drawing upon my ice magic and the latent hope Skylar emanated, we continue to fortify the crystalline shield. Alexander's safety and Elisaria's fate all hinge on the strength of this magical barrier. We'll strengthen it until it becomes an impenetrable fortress. The hope I've found within myself will serve as a shield against the encroaching darkness. Skylar, what are you doing? I've tapped into the magic that runs through my blood. With hope rekindled, I can strengthen our defenses. Skylar's magic intertwined with mine, creating a harmonious blend of frost and newfound vitality. The ice grew thicker, and a radiant energy pulsed through the crystalline shield, reinforcing its protective barrier. Let this stronghold withstand the darkest of intentions. The frosty tapestry responded, glowing with an ethereal light. The rooms seemed to resonate with the combined forces of ice and hope.
The air was thick with urgency and anxiety in the sunlit courtyard of the southern palace. Lady Laura and Matilda, the steadfast ladies-in-waiting, moved with purpose, guiding groups of women and children towards bunkers and safe havens.
Hurry, dear ones! Keep together and follow the path to the bunkers!
Families huddled together, mothers clutching their children, trying to find strength in their unity. But the inevitability of separation loomed. Tearful goodbyes unfolded as fathers prepared to face the imminent danger. In one poignant moment, A father knelt to meet his young daughter's gaze, his eyes reflecting a mix of love and sorrow.
Be strong, my little one. You listen to Matilda and Lady Laura. Daddy has to go to protect our home.
But I want you to stay, Daddy.
The father, doing his best to hide his fear, gathered his daughter tightly.
I'll come back to you, I promise. You take care of Mummy, okay?
The father reluctantly released his daughter into Matilda's care with a final, lingering hug. The child, casting a backward glance filled with longing, joined a group of other children being guided toward the safety of bunkers and safe homes. As he walked away, Matilda turned to the girl's mother, whose face was red and stained with tears.
We'll take good care of her. Stay brave, my dear.
Witnessing this heartbreaking separation, Lady Laura offered a comforting hand to the father.
This sacrifice is to protect them. They'll be reunited soon. You're not alone in this.
Tearful goodbyes echoed through the courtyard, a poignant symphony of love and separation. Laura and Matilda, their hearts heavy with the weight of responsibility, offered comforting words to those they guided, not fully grasping the weight of the moment, but sensing the sorrow that hung in the air. Laura and Matilda exchanged somber glances as they moved through the crowd, their hearts heavy with the shared pain. Holding her mother's hand, a little girl tugged at Matilda's skirt.
Why is Daddy leaving, Miss Matilda? Sometimes people have to go away to keep us safe. But he loves you very much and will always be in your heart.
Matilda knelt down, wiping away a tear from the girl's cheek. Laura approached a mother comforting her son.
It's hard to be strong for him when my heart is breaking. Strength comes in many forms. It's okay to feel the pain. We'll get through this together.
As the fathers, now warriors, marched towards the looming conflict, Laura and Matilda stood in the courtyard, watching the families say their tearful goodbyes. The family suddenly erupted into chaos as a stray arrow sailed over the palace walls. The unsuspecting soldiers and families recoiled in shock. A piercing cry filled the air, and the courtyard transformed from a scene of poignant farewells to one of sudden horror.
By the gods, I'm hit!
The children, wide-eyed and terrified, witnessed the unexpected violence. Mothers instinctively shielded their young ones, adding another layer of anguish to the already fraught atmosphere.
My husband!
The screaming mother tried to run towards the man who was hit, but Laura and Matilda held her back.
We must go to safety. For your children. For everyone's children.
Matilda and Laura continued leading the way for the heartbroken families, seeking solace in the place they once thought was a fortress of safety. Now, it might be the last place they would ever see their loved ones.
The labyrinthian corridor of the southern palace stretched out before me, and I navigated it gracefully, longing to gather some of my most prized possessions before heading to the battlefield. I had learned that the more connected I was to the things that drove me to care about the mission, the more powerful my magic could be. But little did I know that more personal an encounter that I could have expected, or ever wanted, awaited me in the shadows. As I turned a corner, nearing my room, I began to hear haunting moans. A figure emerged from the darkness. A pale face, familiar yet distorted by the touch of death, came into view. It was Catherine, trapped between the realms, bearing the scars of her tragic end. The slits on her wrists told a tale of despair, a gruesome detail etched into her even in the afterlife. Catherine's glazed eyes seemed to acknowledge my presence, a chilling silence settling between us. Her head tilted, as if attempting to convey a message from beyond. The horror of the war outside collided with the darkness that had infiltrated the palace's very heart. As I stepped back, I realized this encounter was a stark reminder that the battle against the shadows was not limited to the battlefield. My breath caught as I stood face to face with her, blazed and haunting. Her eyes seemed fixed on a purpose beyond the veil of death. "It's in your room, Catherine. The tear. And Henry. I can sense it. The tear calls to me, and Henry is entwined with its essence. Open the door." Fear tightened its grip on my heart. The door to my room loomed ahead, and although I knew neither the fairy tear nor Henry was inside, I did not imagine that she would take no very lightly. The tear, Bronwyn. It belongs to me, to my queen, to all the queens betrayed. Hesitation gripped me. The fairy tear, once a symbol of love, now stood as a coveted relic in this spectral encounter. Do not defy me, Bronwyn. The tear and Henry are bound to my restless soul. Her presence crackled with anger, the air thickening with the weight of her wrath. The accusation hung in the air that I had stolen her chance to be the queen of the Celestial Isles. You stole my opportunity, Bronwyn. The crown was going to be rightfully mine, my destiny was to rule, and you snatched it away. Catherine, I did not steal your destiny. You chose a different path that led you to your tragic end. The tear was a gift meant to signify love, not a claim to the throne. Her anger intensified, swirling like a tempest within the confined space. Flickering shadows seemed to dance to the rhythm of her indignation. You were always the favored one. My life was a mere shadow, while yours sparkled in the brilliance of the throne. Catherine, I never sought to overshadow you. Fate dealt each of us a hand, and we played our parts. The throne was never a prize to be stolen. It was a responsibility I accepted for the good of our people. Catherine's spectral anger erupted into violence. Without warning, she lunged towards me, the shadows twisting and contorting, as if propelled by her vengeful intent. Catherine, please, we don't have to fight. But she cared little for reason, driven by the turbulent emotions that tethered her to the realm of the living. The air crackled with the intensity of our confrontation. I summoned a manifestation of ice to create a protective barrier against Catherine's onslaught. The clash of our energies sent sparks cascading like frozen fireworks. You will not deny me what is rightfully mine. I retaliated with a burst of energy, attempting to push back the ghostly assailant. But Catherine's ethereal form seemed unaffected, her anger fueling an unrelenting assault. Catherine, I implore you to find peace. Your anger only imprisons you further. In a surge of determination, I redirected my magic, attempting not to repel, but to encase Catherine in a shimmering cocoon of ice. The ice formed a delicate lattice, containing the swirling shadows of Catherine's anger. The chamber fell silent for a moment, the remnants of our struggle encapsulated in a fragile truce between the living and the spectral. Just like the silence fell, it was disturbed, and I sent the pieces of her flying in all directions. Her spirit had finally been crushed.
Kelderic moved with the stealth of a shadow as he crept along the perimeter of the wall outside of the castle, hoping to find a way in. Instead, he found the next best thing, the lifeless body of an Elisarian guard lying in a pool of darkness. The fallen guard's eyes stared blankly into the abyss. His armor still intact, but now serving as a grim testament to the chaos that unfolded. Kelderic's keen eyes quickly assessed the situation, recognizing an opportunity that could grant him access to the heart of Elisaria. With a calculated efficiency, Kelderic approached the guard's lifeless form. He checked the surrounding area, ensuring that he remained undetected, and swiftly and silently removed the guard's uniform, one piece at a time. The cold air of the corridor brushed against his skin as he discarded his bandit attire, donning the stolen Elisarian armor with precision. Once fully attired in the guise of an Elisarian guard, Kelderic blended seamlessly with the shadows. The bandit's green bandana, a distinctive mark of his affiliation, was concealed beneath the stolen uniform's collar. As he rose to his feet, the fallen guard's identity now obscured by his ruse, Kelderic continued his infiltration, moving deeper into the heart of Elisaria's palace. Headed straight for the tower where the guards controlled the front gate. Approaching the guards in front of the control tower with a feigned sense of urgency, Kelderic spoke in a hushed but authoritative tone, exploiting the chaos of the battlefield.
Quickly! The commander has ordered reinforcements at the eastern front. We're needed immediately.
The guards exchanged glances, their war-weary eyes searching for confirmation of the urgent call to action. The setting sun's light danced on their armor as they hesitated, caught between duty and the chaos that enveloped the city.
Very well. Lead the way.
Relief washed over Kelderic, disguising the underlying tension that simmered beneath the surface.
That way. Time is of the essence.
Who commands this?
King Aldrich himself. Dare you to defy my orders?
But in the enthusiasm of his performance, he moved his body so jerkily that his unfamiliar uniform shifted to the side. The stolen bandana peeked through the collar, a flash of green in the muted moonlight.
He's a bandit!
The guards' instincts sharpened, their eyes narrowing as they honed in on the subtle discrepancy that betrayed the imposter in their midst.
Charge!